All right. So welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have our speaker with us today. Edmund Martin was an IRS special agent for 26 years. And for the past 24 years, he has worked as a private investigator and forensic accountant. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
Sure. Right. I'm going to stand up. I'm glad to be here with you folks. Let's see, and David Reynolds got me to participate here, and of course Jerry Cruz and I. But we've spoken before to the organization. But I just to give you a little recap. My career has been various. I was originally in New Orleans as a special agent. I started in 1969, so I was a child back then, really young. I was like 22 years old working for the government. And anyway, so I worked with the New Orleans Strike Force there in New Orleans, and one of the beginning investigations, and I mean, I was really young. I was mainly a gopher, but it was a Jim Garrison investigation involving organized crime and corruption, public corruption. And that was a very enlightening experience for me. It's like they allowed me to set the bar really high on the investigative things that I participated in. And so we did a lot of things in Louisiana trying to help clean up some of the things that go on in Louisiana in the subdued that you never know anything about. You know, it's always politicians and business owners that are corrupt, and district attorney in that case was corrupt. But anyway, so that's what I did, and we ultimately prosecuted those cases in 1972, and we won some, we lost some. Jim Garrison, we wound up losing that case, but we did our best. We did put $4,000 at that time. You know, public corruption wasn't as expensive as it is today. You're talking hundreds of thousands now, but back then it was $1,000 that we had an informant who actually handed him $1,000 4 times in 4 months. So, and Garrison, yeah. And we actually had it recorded, not visually, but on tape. And I was, as a rookie, I was the one that did all the transcribing of all the tapes. So that was a quite experience. We had 118 tapes, and we transcribed them using hand typewriter, no correct tape, 4 times. Of course, I didn't do it. Some lady, there was a lady who just had tremendous hand-eye coordination. She typed all those things 3 to 4 times. So it was great. But ultimately, you know, it was a great experience for me. I played all the tapes in the courtroom. We had to figure out what portions of the tapes we're going to find and try to orchestrate a whole understanding for the jury as to what took place. And I thought it was very good. And but at that point in time, Mr. Garrison had the quote military-industrial complex against him. It wasn't a military-industrial complex. It was Ed Martin and a few other agents, and that's it. You know, there was no military. It wasn't any conspiracy on our part. What he did was wrong, and that was it. But, you know, in the long run, what happened was we saved his life. He had a staph infection when he got a back operation in New Orleans, and as a result of that, he was riddled. He was in a bed. It affects staph infection, affects your nervous system, and so he was in a bed. And the very first recording that we had of the conversation, Garrison was laying in the bed, and our informant was next to him and gave, you know, I don't know how he handed in $1,000 or what he did, but anyway, Garrison had a vibrator underneath the blanket. And when you raise the blanket, you hear this thing going. And so when it came time for trial, I played all the tapes of the segments of the tapes that were important for the case. And the professor, doctor from Columbia University came up with his oscilloscope and told the jury that, see that right there, when it went, that's where the government edited the tapes. No edited, but anyway, that's what he told them. And then it's like the jury chose the balloon. There's nothing I could do about it. But so we didn't lose that one. I mean, we didn't win that one, but we lost. We had like 26 defendants. So we had I don't know 15 that pled, and we convicted probably 7. So Garrison was one of those got away. Anyway, so that was kind of my career in New Orleans. And then decided to move to Austin, Texas. A lot more laid back, you know. Of course, Austin in 1975 is not Austin today. So been in the hill country. I live in Lost Creek now in the Westlake area for all these times. So I continued, when I came here, we had changed our name from Intelligence Division to Criminal Investigation Division. So it's IRS Criminal Investigation. So when I first came here, the first things we did was we had gotten back the bookmaking laws. So we did some search warrants on different bookmaking operations that were in the city and different counties in the state of Texas. And so because of my experience in New Orleans, I was able to write search warrants, affidavits of search warrants, and get search warrants prepared so that we could do those cases. It was a fun time. Then later on, I got a bug and decided I wanted to leave the IRS in 1984. I had done an undercover operation, which back then we didn't have really any training of any substance. And I was working like 16 hours a day. I was working, I was working out of Corpus Christi, handling this case and trying to make the case during the night while I was working during the day. So it was almost impossible. And so it was fun. It was a good try. We didn't make the case, but it did. And so as a result of that, I kind of went, this is kind of burning me out. So I decided to leave. And so I went to work with the State Securities Board. Now, the State Securities Board has a similar investigation. It's not income tax like IRS was at that time. It was more of a fraud investigation. And so I learned a lot about fraud investigation and violations of the state securities laws, which was very, in that time it was mainly, there was a fellow who had done a $9 million Ponzi scheme here in Austin. And the interesting thing is that the client list of the people that were investors was the who's who of Austin, Texas. I mean, there were some names in there that you would be really surprised with. So that's what we investigated. And then we had a trial up in Dallas. And I think we wound up losing that one too. The jury didn't believe our case, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so that was quite an experience. Then I decided to leave that organization after 2 years and set up my own company. I was Financial Investigative Consultants. And we did that for about 3 years. And then I saw that IRS was doing a lot of different things. And it kept encouraging me, man, you need to come back. You need to come back. You need to come back. Because what had happened is IRS got involved more in money laundering. The new laws came back in '86. And when that came about, it really got more, instead of just doing the mundane income tax investigation, you were doing other things. And they were mainly involved in drug smuggling, drug investigations, maybe marijuana. It was also amphetamines, that type of stuff. And so I decided, I think I'm gonna get back into it. So I was real lucky. I applied, and at the time it needed somebody like me, I guess, because they hired me again. So I went from I was in grade 13 when I left. I came back in as a 12, and in a year I was back to my grade 13. So that was fine. And for me, I was in hog heaven because I was doing financial investigations where everybody else was doing drug investigations. So I knew that when I got out of working for the IRS, I wasn't going to be doing the drug investigations anymore. So I wasn't going to be an agent or a gun carrying agent or law enforcement anymore. So I said, hey, financial crimes is what I need to do. So I got into that. I did some major investigations there in Austin here. We had a company that started, when IBM started writing up programs, developing programs to develop all the business programs that were done to be computerized, they were bringing in consultants. And there was one company that went from 25 people, 50 people, 70 people, 100 people, 300 people, 600 people. And in the process, never paid any employment taxes.
Oh, wow.
So he had a significant amount of employment taxes. And the best part about it, there was a one section in the service center of a lady who kept the information. Every time she was the one who called him and got the excuse of why he couldn't, why did a dog ate the homework? That's what she was saying. Dog ate the 941. Anyway, so I got to that point where I got that information, and I said, well, heck, that doesn't work. So I finally started my investigations, and wound up, he owed the government $10 million in employment taxes and another $10 million what they call the trust fund portion, which is what he owed as his portion, actually with the trust fund being the portion that was owed the government, and then the other portion is the portion that he had to put up. So he wound up going to jail for 2.5 years, which at that time here in Austin was very, very odd, because we couldn't really get a lot of prosecutions out of the judges here, the federal judges even. They weren't putting people in jail. So we did that, and did a few other things, some of them individuals that deserted prosecution and ultimately got it. And then then I guess my biggest break was in 1998. I found out that, people might know this, but Madalyn Murray O'Hair disappeared. And Madalyn Murray O'Hair, when she disappeared, I got a little information that helped me to find out what was going on. And I began that investigation. And 3 years later, we indicted like 3 people. We convicted one in June of 2000, and put him in jail for 2 life sentences. Wow. So the jury believed us, and the judge said, what happened was that we couldn't prove the bodies. We couldn't prove what happened to the people, but we could prove everything else. And you know how they say, well, you can't prove this because of circumstantial evidence. Well, guess what? Circumstantial evidence piles up, and the scale's sitting right here. And when you add that on, the scale tilts. Guilty is guilty. And so we were able to do that. And so as a result of that, that was, I'd say, one of the biggest cases of my life. And then we began during the Madalyn O'Hair case, there was some ebbs and flows. And as the ebbs and flows came in, I began an investigation of a football player by the name of Russell Erxleben here in Austin. And he had taken $40 million from people using, it was a Ponzi scheme. Well, of course, he was involved with the Russians. And the Russians took 24 million of that 42 million from him. And they're a bunch of thieves too. Anyway, so we did that, and he wound up pleading to that case. So we wound up, doing the job. So when that was all over, it was like, okay, what am I going to do now? So it's like, I got 2 years, maybe a year to go before I retire. So I said, now I'm going to retire. So that's what I did. I retired. Might as well do like Mickey Mantle, go out there, when you hit that last home run, go ahead and do it and leave. Yeah. That's what I did. Decided to leave. And so since then, I became a private investigator, and that's a licensed private investigator in the state of Texas. And I've been doing that since, actually got my license, I think, in 2001, and began investigation in 2002. And my first investigation was it was odd as heck, because it wasn't financial at all. It was a young man out of Fredericksburg who went to the Colorado School of Mines and died from a drug overdose. So I went to the Colorado School of Mines, and believe me, they didn't cooperate, and tried to prove what would happen, tried to interview the young men that were involved with him in his dorm room. He was a suite of rooms, and nobody knew anything. And I was able to show circumstantially that there was a lot of things going on that didn't work out. And the police department did not cooperate. School didn't cooperate. And the individuals, as I talked to them, they started not to cooperate. Some of them dodged me. And so we did what we could and wrote up a report. And then the DA's office up in Colorado went, we're not going to do anything with it. So our guy
employed by the DA's office?
No, the DA, the district attorney.
Yeah, you were employed by them?
No, I was employed by the son, the father of the young man who died.
Okay.
And so we, the DA just wouldn't do anything about it. Come to find out, though, it was the same. I think it was the same jurisdiction as the John Benet Ramsey case. John Benet Ramsey was prior to that. Okay. Anyway, so that was what I did, and then my private investigative career is limited. Mainly, I needed the license to be able to do the other things that I do, which is the forensic accounting. I'm not a CPA, so I couldn't do it under a CPA license. I'm a certified fraud examiner, and
what does it take to get that license?
Certified fraud examiner?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, certified fraud examiners, basically, there's a test that you can take. And in my case, I was grandfathered in because I became one of the first, like my license number is 1382, and there's like 80,000 others now. So I was initially grandfathered in, but it's a test. It's a law enforcement, your knowledge of law enforcement activities. And
so it's more important to have law enforcement experience than financial?
Both, yes, no. It's generally the CPA side of it is good because it's your knowledge of the books and records of things, the way people record things. And so I have people that work with me that are CPA. So I got one thing and they do another. So that's what we do there. I decided, I sat in Killeen one summer at 105 degrees doing surveillance on some Polish soldier's wife or something. I don't know what it was anymore, but it was so hot. I opened my roof of my car and it didn't do any good. I was still just smoldering, just sitting there turning my own juices. And I said, nah, this is not what I'm going to do. So I went ahead and tried to get, because there's nobody else in Texas that had the type of things, the type of experience that I have, working law enforcement plus civil side. So I can get involved in any civil case, in a divorce case, in estate cases that we'll talk about in a minute. So anything involving money, because that's what happens. The money gets stolen, and for the most part, where do people get that justice? Okay. So, for instance, I just completed a case where an employee stole from a company out of Canada. The Canadian company, a good company here in Texas. The employee was here in charge of their aspect of business here. And because they trusted her so well, she'd been with the company for like 4 or 5 years, and because they trusted her so well, she took advantage of it. That's all it was. To the tune of about $300,000. So,
any unique aspect to how she did that? Did she?
Well, yeah, but it's through credit cards. Credit cards, guys, if you're in business and you have a credit card that you let employees use, you better stay on that like a June bug. Better be on it, because otherwise they're gonna find a way. I mean, people, if you wind up like the other night, when we were eating supper and I whipped out my credit card and put it on my account, and it's my business card. That's one thing. But when you buy some equipment with the credit card and you let that equipment wind up at your house, that's a different matter. We did one company here that it was $1.7 million in 3 years. The guy stole off a credit card because he had photoshopped the receipts. Some receipts he didn't have, and they had an operation where if you turned in credit cards, in fact, actually it reconciled your credit card with the company, this company that you have, that you submit the invoices, and just nobody paid attention. A guy was busy doing something else, and he's supposed to be, he was the guard at the gate, and he didn't guard it. So in 3 years, the guy stole 1.7 million. And it was really easy, he even went so far as to pay us for his daughter's wedding, but he had photoshopped the invoice for that. So we knew what that was. So, people will do that type of stuff. If you don't, it's like anything, if you don't trust but verify, you're going to get taken advantage of. So that's what happened here. And I got another case that just recently, an employee who was the controller, and it's mainly the controllers. It's really what it is. It's people who have control of the people's monies. And this person was in charge of doing the employment taxes. And so lo and behold, I don't know yet I think what happened is they did the employment taxes and put them in a drawer. They never filed them. They prepared them, never filed them. And the next thing you know, it's 1.6 million that's owed to the government employment taxes. And then by the time you finish, there's another $1.6 million, because the interest, penalties and interest for the government really mounts quick. And it's compounded interest. So as a result, there's the company owes the government, in addition to the 1.6 million in employment taxes, they owe the penalties and interest. And boy, if that doesn't put a company under, I don't know anything that will. It won't. So here we go. So that's in process. And then I was lucky enough to be brought in by internal affairs or internal controls over at at Dell, and they brought me in on a case where an employee there was using one of their credit cards to pay for vendors on the outside. That wasn't supposed to be, okay? And so it was like, when you use a credit card, that's instantaneous. It's paid, boom. And then if nobody's there to question it to start with, or what was the authority you had to allow you to pay that credit card, if nobody's checking, it just goes by. $10 million later. Wow. Yeah, $10 million later. Well, when I finish,
are they in cahoots with
yes,
the people that they're buying?
They're fraternity brothers. Two fraternity, well, all three were fraternity brothers. One was inside. And so, and at the time, you know, Dell was in the development phase, and they were bringing a lot of young, inexperienced managed types in, and I imagine they didn't know anything at all about controls and about what to do to check things. And so they brought in a very more experienced person who said, wait a minute, you're using a credit card to pay this? That's supposed to go to this other system. And that was it. And when it finally came out, found out it was $10 million. Well, they tried to prosecute him, you know, went through the courts in Round Rock. And ultimately, the attorney says, would you just give that information to the FBI and the IRS? So I was happy to do that. So they took my case. A year later, they indicted 4 people, and all 4 of them got jail time. So I was still doing law enforcement at that time. It wasn't direct. But, you know, so that felt good because Dell was being injured. Those people were taking advantage of them. And to me, that's the biggest problem we have, is that people are being taken advantage of. Individuals are taken advantage of, like we're going to talk about the estate matter, divorce cases. A lot of that's being done. I have a divorce case, and I've seen this before, that the husband says, oh, I don't have any income. You know, I'm in business and I don't have any income whatsoever. Okay, fine. Let's see your bank account. Well, I don't want you to give you that. Why don't you? Well, because you're going to find out what I did. Because what he did is he took all that money and he spent it. He spent it on, you know, hamburgers and hot dogs and whatever else, living on. It's personal expenditures, not business expense. So what I did is we finally he had to prove it to the court. He told the court, I have no income. Okay, fine. Trouble is that case, I think it's 3 years old now. It just takes so much time to get it to the courts. I think we're supposed to have a hearing in August. That's going to probably put the end of it. But I wrote a report last year that should have been in last year, and I don't have the information to update the current, but I could prove that he had income in the prior 3 years. Now, is that going to be enough for the judge? I don't know. But the point is that he did have income, and he should have been paying child support, and he wasn't.
Like Rudy Giuliani?
I don't know about Rudy.
So you probably get involved in a lot of divorces where one part or the other is hiding their assets, right?
Yes. Try to hide the assets.
Yeah. Bread and butter work for you.
Yeah, it could be. It just, you know, depends on what happens is that if they hide it, I think that's generally a clause in the divorce decree that says if you basically render your report and you agree to it, then fine, that's great. But if you don't disclose and they find out what you didn't disclose, it basically goes to the other party. Do you know that to be a fact? You don't know? Okay, I don't know divorce. That's my understanding. So, but there are not that many attorneys that I know that want to pursue that. The individual will want to pursue it because the wife is mad as a hornet that she didn't get her portion of it. So, and so that begins a whole nother process. After the divorce is settled, now you're opening up another can of worms with another case, and you got to pursue it. The evidence is old. You know, there's a lot of things that are negative on it, and negative as a result of it. So it's not often done, and you got to have an attorney that wants to do it. That's the big thing. And of course, you gotta have a client that has the funds. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question going back to the employer who also wasn't paying employment tax. And he had to go to jail, but when he goes to jail, does that wipe that debt off, or does he still have to pay that
No,
money?
no, for the IRS, he still got to pay it.
So he still has to pay it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The government did it. IRS will get his pound of flesh, but they'll take some blood too.
But how do they, if he's in jail, he's
Well,
not making any income, how does he?
What he did in that case is he had money in the bank account, but he also had given his daughter, his niece and his nephew each a home.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm sorry, but
those.
that home's not yours. They clawed it back. Put it
Yeah.
that way. So
Here's another question that came up just now on, it said, Noreen asks, how hard is it to find a person who leaves the state and changes their name to vanish after committing fraud? Or how hard is it to find a person who has the same name as 200 other people?
yeah, let's go with the first one.
Okay.
The first one, it boils down to basically looking at what is with that person, like the family members, things like that. And the internet today is a very, very good tool for tracking people. Facebook and things like that. People want to tell you all about things that they do.
Right.
I just bought a brand new, Mercedes or whatever. Okay, really? How'd you do that? And as far as the other thing goes, multiple names, especially here, can you imagine AC Garcia? How many AC Garcias are in the state of Texas? It depends on what you have at the beginning. You got to get your background information and just try to follow the leads as best you can, which is not easy. So that's the only thing you can do.
So it's again through connecting them with people that they've known.
Right, addresses, phone numbers, everything, all the detail. It's a process. And
so if you were looking at like even their own previous addresses, like they still might be associated with those addresses.
Right, you may get a utility bill that you've been moving, going now to Florida or something. So there's all kinds of things that if you can get a process, if you can get access to it. See, the state of Texas,
you just pay online to get. I know there's all kinds of services that come up when I look for people. They say you can pay and get a report of
Yeah. Well, we have access to that kind of stuff. Some of that stuff is not worth the paper it's printed on, but what you can do is one thing, and what I can do is a little bit better, and the government can do even much better. But we don't have access to that. So
everybody seems to have access to.
Well, I agree. The state of Texas, believe it, the state of Texas, we have a lot more access to information than like if you were in California. Man, they have screwed it down tight. And, it really causes problems to get information for some people.
And then I have another question back on the School of Mines, where you did a report and they chose not to prosecute, but the family could have taken your report and filed a civil suit.
They could have. I don't know why they chose not to.
Okay.
Some were going. It just didn't do it.
Okay.
Probably the expense.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, they spend a lot of money to start with. And
yeah, I was wondering that on the divorce, what kind of asset level would people need to be dealing with in order to be able to finance your investigation and stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
you have to be a couple $1 million, right?
You have to turn around and pay my fee,
right.
So you got to look at, and that's a lot of times it's on some collection things that we do for someone is to find out what their assets are, and is there a possibility that the money spent is be worthwhile to whatever's captured over. So it's a weighing process, right? Yeah. Else?
No, that's
okay.
That's good.
Okay. Anyway, so I will get into some of the detail investigations that we kind of did that will give you some idea.
Could I ask you, so if we have an investigator who's our protagonist, how closely can they get an agent at the Treasury or something like that to work with them if they have a
very little chance?
Really, even if they bring them a thing and say I have money laundering or whatever.
Say, thank you.
And that's it, that's it.
Give you the information, I guess.
We'll be back. You get a copy of the indictment.
Well, we're writing fiction, so we.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, so,
You could have
so there's a
said.
treasure agent.
That's fine.
Helps out, huh? Okay, but they're not, generally speaking.
Generally
they're
not,
not
no, I mean,
very,
as far as the IRS goes, you know, you have the disclosure laws, and those laws, 26, 7214 or 7215, something like that, it is. And, it's frowned upon, put it that way. They'll penalize you. And, so that's not easily done. Now, that's not to say that they haven't, because somebody, they didn't, oh, well, actually, I think the people that were leaking this stuff were contractors of some type that leaked, you know, like, I don't know if it was a president's return, but there were some things that were leaked in the past, which the employee of IRS didn't do it. Okay.
So it was like a subcontractor,
Subcontractor had access
third-party
to something.
vendor.
Right,
Yeah,
they had
that's a
access to
that's a
something they
good
shouldn't
feedback.
even be looking at,
Yeah.
you know?
Way to go.
It's like, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but, you know, we're talking about this, Elon Musk, the Doge thing. They were screaming on TV about, you know, access to all this tax. They're not going to be looking at individual stuff. Can you imagine looking at 300 million people? It's not possible.
I could imagine looking at a couple of their political.
Yeah,
Maybe
totally.
something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe something like
targeted.
that. That would become known pretty quick. Where did that come from? You know, that kind of thing. But so that's, you know, let's just let the process.
The president told us to investigate you.
Well, you know, that happens too. Hopefully that. But you know.
And after the Supreme Court decision, you can't prosecute him because he's making a decision while he's
Yeah,
serving.
but you can prosecute the IRS agent who doesn't.
Well,
They
that's,
don't
you
have
know,
immunity.
I'll tell you, like the people, for instance, the two managers that brought forth the information about Hunter Biden and all, I was very surprised at that because those guys took some risk, you know, and whether or not
Who blew the whistle on Hunter then?
it was the agents that were involved in I think it was the Durham case, the Durham investigation.
Were they
I think it was
FBI or
IRS?
IRS? They were IRS.
Yeah, they're the ones that testified in Congress. And
But
I don't know what they're doing now.
They were IRS agents?
IRS, yes.
Okay.
They must have been given immunity.
So somehow they got some kind of special dispensation because
Congress,
they normally would
Congress
not.
can do
Congress
that.
probably did
They can
something.
give
Yeah.
immunity.
That's what I would think. I didn't get close enough to that to figure that out, but I was suspicious. I'm going, man, you're taking your entire career in your hands, you know, because who knows what's going to happen to you. So I haven't heard anything, but I'm not close to them anymore. So I don't know. In fact, up till a year ago, the last person I knew was gone. So it's all new people.
Oh.
Yeah, it's all new people that needed some experience. That's what they don't have right now.
So they, here in Austin, the IRS office does employ fraud investigators?
Oh yeah, everybody in CID is a fraud investigator. You know, there's 80,000 employees. First of all, those didn't have guns.
In Austin, they have 80,
No,
they have
not
80,000.
No, in Austin, I don't know. They used to have two groups, and then you had Waco, and we used to have. Well, you got San Antonio. There's a number, but if you're talking about statewide, probably I don't know, maybe 300-400 at the most.
I'm just aware that there's a major IRS office in Austin. I think you mail your taxes to them.
Well, no, there's the service center down on
yeah,
but that's just.
So they have some investigators in every regional.
It depends. It depends. You know, like I said, there's Waco. It's generally where the court is. There's a Western District in Waco. Here in Austin, Houston, San Antonio, El Paso. So that's where the agents generally are.
And we have state investigators under the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, but generally those are up till a few years ago they were not law enforcement. They were actually civil investigators. So they didn't have any real jurisdiction. Now they get involved in things, especially what drew them in, I believe, was that child solicitation stuff. Where they were acting as David, what do you think? Huh?
I don't know the connection about child solicitation.
Well, what they were doing is they were posing as children. Even when I was there, they were posing as children, drawing people in.
Oh, the
This is FBI.
child pornography.
Child pornography.
This is FBI, right? Not-
No, we're talking about the state of Texas.
Attorney
Yeah,
General.
they had, Attorney General
Special
had a
unit.
whole department of agents or
Okay.
Investigators.
who are online trying to get child
Yeah,
pornographers
yeah.
to come
Right.
forward.
Yeah.
for
Or to
that.
come in.
Send them
and-
some pictures, so they.
Yeah, and then you wind up having a meeting and boom, they pop you right there. So that's been, you know, the television, the reporters do that nowadays. But so the Attorney General's done that in the past too. So it's a mess. It's a mess.
When they fish for, like paid assassin, and stuff like that, the FBI.
Oh, yeah, there was that book
I
that
was
came
reading-
out,
Oh,
yeah.
I was just reading this morning that they were doing it, surrounding the question of whether or not Iran was behind the Trump.
Oh, well,
Assassination
I don't
attempts there,
doubt that Iran's gonna be
That
trying to do
they
something.
got some guy, because FBI agents were posing as potential,
Sure,
that he could hire them or
sure.
whatever.
Well, they get a lead to that, they'll pose.
So they.
I mean, look at what, back in the day, it was called Abscam. That was going on.
They have that
different-
hilarious movie about that.
Yeah. And so as a result, you know, if you've done it and you confess to doing it, or you get involved to the point where you participate in a crime, you're in trouble.
And if the state's been paying child support on behalf of a, you know, just take, for example, a mother, then I think that gave them the authority to go and do some, crime investigation as well. If
Quite
someone's
possible.
hiding assets.
Yeah, they're just looking for, you know, nexus really to try to figure out where to go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. You know, one of the cases I was involved in was an oil and gas scheme, where basically it was a Ponzi scheme, but what happened is that the owner of this oil and gas company was selling out these units to different people. And, I was able to get in and just, it was so easy. I just got access to the banks and found out that, oh, well, you know, in order to sell this one units or group of I don't know if it's called units, but anyway, this one investment scheme, he needed to have profits for the other one. You have to show profits out of that oil and gas drilling operation in order to get other people to come in. Well, all he did was took money from the investors and gave it to a drilling company. The drilling company turned it back around and gave it back.
So it's like a shell game.
That's
where
all
they
it
were
was.
moving
Yeah,
the
that's all it
money.
was. It's
Yeah.
just a money flow.
Yeah.
And they were able to show that, I was able to show that that's the same money. It wasn't, I mean, it was almost a direct line, you know, it was not difficult.
That's an official investigation of the Ponzi type schemes.
In that instance,
Is that something you do privately?
no, I get involved in that too. I mean, you know, because it just depends. A lot of times what will happen, we'll get initially involved and the Bureau takes it over or the IRS takes it over.
Is that something you would do as an undercover person who's, you know, maybe posing as someone who wants to invest in the
You could possibly do that, but then
oil and
somebody,
gas?
yeah, but then you gotta have
Unit.
somebody's money to put it out, to, you know,
To get those
That's what I'm saying. Who
financials.
hires you? Who would pay you to do that?
well, I
As
mean,
far as-
in that case, I would think that if you've got somebody who has very deep pockets that made an investment and they want to do that, then yes, they might hire you and have you pose. But then you got to develop a deep cover and everything. And nowadays, you know, that deep cover is not easy when you've
Yeah,
got the internet,
That's true.
you know, that's a problem. So, okay. Let's see. I'll tell you let's talk about the estate matter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I get involved in estate matters, and what happens in an estate matter is it's different things, but what happens, like I said earlier, the estates, from what I've seen, people are getting older. We're all getting older, and as a result, you know, you might have any children, and so, but you've got an aunt that says, you know, oh, my brother here has got a lot of money, and I want to be his administrator or his executor, and so they'll rewrite the will and set it up where they're getting to be the executor for the will, and the next thing you know, I have one that what they did is a sister took it over and kind of cut the brother out completely. And the brother's going, well, what happened to mom's house? Well, we sold it. We sold it. How long ago did you sell it? Oh, 5 years ago. What? I mean, why wasn't that reported in the estate? Well, we didn't give that. We didn't probate the will. What? So, you know, he's concerned about it, and come to find out, there's a 4-year statute, is my understanding.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
4-year statute, so he's outside the statute.
Did not know that.
That's theft, man. They stole that money. And you know that I think it's 15 months. You have 15 months in order to create an inventory. It's authorized that way to the court. I mean, to the law,
The estate.
to the estate, and that's kind of criminal in a way myself. Well, I don't know why. I mean, the legislature, I'm sure, passed that law. Our case law was caused that 15 months, but as a result, you as the brother are not going to find anything out until 15 months later, and then you may have to sue to find that out because we just didn't put an asset list together. So they've taken the cash, they've taken the proceeds from the house. It was $250,000. They took the proceeds from the house, and my client was just SOL. So
after 4 years, you can't file
for
probate or.
Oh no, you can file. He'd have to contest it, file, but even that, you know, it's almost as though it's segregated. You know, the estate matter is one thing, and then the theft basically of the house if you sold it, that is another. And so you got to go through all that process, and then you got to come up out of your pocket to pay for that. And you know, they had this a litigation. I mean, there's all kinds of costs involved. So it makes people kind of wonder. So as a result of that, people wonder and just will not go forward. They just get mad and, you know, stomp their feet a lot.
The state of Texas doesn't get any tax out of it. They only get, what do they get in a probated estate?
In a probate case, I don't know. In a probate case.
Does the state of Texas have any interest in
Inheritance tax.
No.
I don't think there's nothing. That's a federal matter.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have any reason to
No,
pay to get it.
No,
So it has to be a personal person
yeah,
who's been impacted by
Yeah.
that.
we've. I'm not. I haven't been before this judge, but our probate judge, has been here for 30 years. Makes you wonder, you know, who's putting him in that office is the question, first of all.
Guy Harmon.
Harmon, yeah. And then somebody else I think now too, but I haven't heard you say exposure. All I get is the back end of the people mad about what has happened and they're not able to get justice. That's the problem. I'd love to sit down and talk with these people. But I just know the frustration that people have for not being able to get justice. Like this one fellow about the mother's house being sold, that money's gone. They stole it and sold it, you know, stole the money, sold the house.
But if they have assets, he could still be able to claim.
He can pursue that. Yes,
He
he's
could
got to get a
pursue
lawyer to go and file some kind of.
He can't file it himself.
Well, he
What
can go
about-
pro se, but that's not going to get him anywhere.
But wouldn't you have, the 4-year statute of limitations protects people who commit estate fraud through the probate system? What is the 4-year statute?
It's a 4 years. It was this particular situation. It was.
It sounds like he just can't sue his sister anymore.
No, but
Isn't it 4 years from the date of death? Because that's what we've dealt with the judge.
I think the date of death. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
That's what it was.
Oh,
for
I
us
thought it
when
was maybe
we
the date of
tried
filing
our
the will, but
estate.
I think, you know, all of that has to be kind of looked at real detail to find out, is the will accurate to start with? Was it redone? You know, I've got one right now that we've got a handwriting document examiner that looks at these things.
Or
We did that as well. We had a higher one.
And you find out that the text in this particular thing is not the same as the text here. The handwriting for the on the will is not the same as the handwriting. You know, you got to get a number of exemplars to be able to prove that. So, I mean, it's another circumstantial situation,
Right.
but it's something.
is the executor the only person that's in a position to really take advantage of?
Yes, because they're in charge of that bank account
Okay.
and basically in all marshaling up all the assets.
Okay.
See? So, And so it's really a frustrating situation, and then people will their entire state can be stolen. And it's generally a relative. It could be a son, a daughter, mother and dad both passed. Because that's what happens. A lot of times the father will die, and in a year the mother died. And so boom, boom, you got those right behind one another. So the whole estate's going to somebody, and depending on the will. And then if you've got a notary who's unscrupulous, then they may change or allow you to change that will and notarize it. That's a problem.
Have you had any cases where you had a notary you suspected of willingly
yes,
involving themselves in
yes.
fraudulent cases?
Yes. It's not here in Texas, in Arizona. That's another thing I'll tell you. One of the things that I've been able to do as a forensic accountant, I'm getting investigations all over. California, Northup, New Jersey, just in Florida, anywhere. So, because what they're doing is people are frustrated. So they wind up searching the internet and they run upon my blog or something and they call me. And I sit down and talk for 30 minutes. I might not be able to help them, but I'll give them some idea.
Isn't there a thriller movie or something about an accountant, forensic accountant?
Oh, you're talking about the accountant 1 and accountant 2?
Yeah.
Accountant 1 was good. Accountant 2 was kind of like, it lost its theory. Yes, ma'am.
Say, if you're looking at an estate issue,
Salem.
we had unfortunate personal experience with what he's talking about, and really have to think deep. I was not the executor, but I knew I could come up with some of my mother's signatures. If you know a realtor that they closed a property on and you're friendly with them, they'll go back to the title company and give you those signatures. If you ever gifted whoever this person is a written check and they signed it, you can go back to your bank like 10 years and pull those signatures. But what you may find at the end is not the rainbow, is you've spent all this money and you have a handwriting expert on your side with all this information, and you just need to track down the iffy notary. Well, they're now dead and moved out of state, and it's just more money and bad feelings. So you go to mediation and you're like, hope this works out. I hope it does work out, but the money pit is it's just very, very expensive.
And in the situation I had with the aunt in control and taking the money in the house loan, took it to the DA's office, and after 6 months, it went up.
Really? They wouldn't prosecute?
They're not prosecuting anything that's financial.
Right.
Those are hard
Yes, ma'am.
cases.
They're very hard to do.
Yeah.
First of all, as the prosecutors are not there, they don't have the knowledge to do it. That's what I feel.
With all of your experience, what would you say would be as close to an ironclad way to set up estate inheritances other than this type of thing where somebody's an executor, you don't even know what they're doing?
Well, I think somehow in there, I don't know how it would be done, but the wills are set up in a process that the laws change, so they have to change your will. I got a will right now that's probably 5 years old. I got to have it changed because everything changes. You got to have something in there that says, oh, by the way, executor, because you're the one making the will. You need to report back to the beneficiaries in a year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you're the one that creates it, isn't it, David?
No.
Yeah.
Why not? Or you can put it in a trust, yeah.
Separate thing.
There's another question online.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever investigated insurance or Medicare fraud? If yes, what are typical schemes perpetrated by criminals?
Man, y'all see the latest? Those last few, what is it? There was like, I don't know how many hundreds.
The catheter people.
There was a bunch of Medicare
catheters.
Yeah, it was it was like $30 billion or whatever it was. Really unbelievable the number. It's like they had 30 people, different countries, doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, you know? But it's just the thing of all of it, it's all limited to your imagination, really.
So there were people that were saying that they were ordering catheters, but they weren't really ordering the catheters. And that's how they were getting the
Sending the
fund?
bill to.
Oh, and sending the bill.
Yeah.
Okay, got
So
it.
it's kind of a business fraud. It falls under business
Right.
fraud because these are,
Yeah.
they're just
Well, it's state,
medical companies. or
Right.
whatever that are-
and the state and the federal government is pretty much on top of that because they've got the resources to go and reach across state lines, across the country, into another world.
Yeah, I think they were claiming that they stopped more from going out than they paid out. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I mean, I know I've participated in some presentations with the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and I don't remember the numbers, but the state of Texas had stopped some of that Medicaid fraud. I mean, it's an investigation. It's a lengthy investigation. You're dealing with all those records, and you got to prove it, and then you got to go to trial, and you got to then prove it to a court. It's very, very technical, and
Yeah, and on
They-
Medicare fraud, that wouldn't be what you're doing
no,
now.
at all,
Yeah.
no, because I mean, I don't have that. That's a specific law enforcement function.
Do they have their own investigators, Medicare
Yes,
investigators?
yes, sure. In fact, the state of Texas has before.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Not yet. I'll tell you if they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, yes.
So I have this idea that maybe I'll write a money laundering with DEA and drug folks or whatever. So is it realistic that like foreign banks, you know, like the Caribbean banks have the kind of the reputation do that? Do IRS and Treasury agents have any ability to get into the like foreign banks or?
There are treaties that the government has negotiated with foreign countries. And I'm not sure what the treaties are with the Bahamian companies, the Caribbean companies.
Okay, so you
Not
have to
banks.
look up the treaty law and see what they.
Possibly.
Okay.
If there's anything specific.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
But they're still going on, you know, still the Isle of Man is still out there. You've got all of these things that are still out there.
Now we have Bitcoin.
And now we have Bitcoin.
You got Bitcoin.
Crypto that we.
Because I've run into that with this last thing that I've got. The wife found out that the husband has Bitcoins. It's something Ethereum or something like that's another one.
Yeah.
And the problem with all that is that to me, I don't know enough about it yet. We're gonna have to learn. But you gotta have access to the guy's wallet, because that's where the information is. And oh yeah, well you got the blockchain and you can track. Well, you got to get access to that stuff, and that's through the wallet. So then you can follow it. But the guys that I work with formerly, like last year, just was with the IRS, so he's knowledgeable in it. So we're gonna get what we can get. But again, you got to get that information.
Seems like the phone would be also one of the most important things to have access to.
Yes, but in that case, if it's criminal, you can get into it. But if it's civil, that's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Because I have a friend that does the computer and cell phone forensics, and it's when he's involved, for the most part, what he does is cell phone forensics and murder cases. Because he puts a lot of cases together.
So who's he hired by? Is he hired by the government?
By the government, by the county that's proven the case, possibly by an individual, but generally not.
Okay.
But that cell phone is deadly. If you're going to go commit a crime, don't carry your phone.
Yeah, right.
Don't carry the phone.
There is another question here. If you were a dishonest person, how would you try to steal $1 million through financial fraud?
Like, what would be the best way to do it?
I don't know. I don't think that
The
way.
easiest.
I don't think
Sounds
that.
like get a credit card from somebody.
Well, a credit card with
Who's got
nobody
$1 million.
watching.
Right.
Well, this is the thing, that guy that stole 1.7 million, he had a credit card limit of $80,000 a month.
Wow.
Oh my God.
It's a big company. That's what it was. And so, but it's just like anything else. When we look at these things, we got to look at internal controls. And it's what people do.
The thing is, someone who's got a credit limit with their company of $80,000 a month has got to be pulling in a fairly decent paycheck.
Well, it's $100 million company.
So why would you be incentivized?
Greed.
Greed.
He said he had two buddies that he was working with.
No, that was a different case. It's a different
Oh,
case.
it's a different.
Yeah, that the buddies are at almost 10 million. This one was only a 1.7 million credit card.
Oh, it's got to be more than $1 million.
Yeah. Well,
Peanuts.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
It probably is these days, by the time you split it with the Russians or whatever.
Well, in the initial days, it wasn't as big as it is today. I mean, there's so much large level fraud that, you find it out every time they turn over some kind of significant rock,
Yeah.
I mean, who the hell know that Bernie Madoff was doing his thing the way
Right,
he was,
right.
So.
Mm.
Anything else?
Yeah, one of the most
Not yet.
amusing groups I do on Facebook is called The Moneyest. And it's my Market Watch guy. And it's supposed to be like a lot about investing and stuff or whatever, but people post about their estate
Good, the
problems
money
on
is.
here all the time.
Really?
About like how, their brother stole,
Uh-huh.
the estate and stuff like that. And then people will comment about like, oh, that happened to me. Well, it's The Moneyest is, and he's a columnist for Market Watch.
Okay, I get Market Watch, but I never look at
But,
money.
but the group on Facebook here, just people just come in and post, questions about any kind of financial supposedly stuff or whatever, but it's like, some of them.
It is scary though, I think, as people age, if they have assets, it's a very vulnerable time.
It is, and you don't want your son and your daughter to know all about your stuff because, they're gonna put you in an institution and they're gonna want access to your money.
Oh,
No.
wow. Yeah. No, that's true. I hadn't thought about
That's
that.
Doesn't it take going to court and proving that person's incapacitated? You can't just put someone somewhere.
No, you can't, but there's all kinds of collusion there too sometimes. The doctor might collude with the person trying to do it. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on anybody particularly, but those things happen sometimes. I don't have any evidence of it. Yes, ma'am.
Well, here's a good question, which I do know the answer to. I'm
Okay.
just curious. Years ago, if you owed the Internal Revenue Service the money, a lot of people would just write IRS and mail in their payment. Now you have to fill it out to the Department of the Treasury. Do you know why? One of the reasons.
Well, no, I don't know for sure, but they changed it. Because I was writing a check to IRS also. Yeah. So they changed it to the Department of Justice. Department of Treasury. Do you know why?
Well, the rumor is that the employees, the seasonal employees in the mailroom, they watch them, to see if they're stealing. And there was a big scam years ago. What they would do is they would make the IRS Mrs. whoever, and they would take it to a money cashing store.
It's possible.
And they would get the money. That and other fraud is supposedly the reason why they changed it.
Okay.
But
I had a case. I had a case.
I didn't even know if they
I
took checks and.
I had a case.
I thought you had to pay online.
I had a case in that same mailroom. There was a check that came through, and it was voided by this company, and they wrote void on it. So it wasn't real distinctive, but it was void. Well, this woman who worked in the mailroom at the IRS came up with the idea, I'm gonna steal that check. She stole the check, and she set up a company called something like a child
Custodian.
a custodian, or just a child care. What happened is that the kids had gotten a hold of that check and wrote that on there, and so she cashed the check. Yes. Well, we prosecuted her because we went in and did a search warrant on the house. We found where she created W-2s and she created 1099s. She also had a stamp, which she stamped the in the old days, you used to be able to create a stamp that you could put the letters into, and you put it in the back of your check for deposit of.
Yes.
And so that's what she did. We found that under her sofa. The bag of notes, the bag of letters plus the stamp itself, and it was like perfect.
Now, where was she? Was an IRS
She worked in
Mailroom employee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what she did. It's called, I think it's
What
called.
year would that be? That'd be like the 1970s or
It'd have been in the 80s, yeah.
just
So to
almost
the-
historical.
To have the authority to search her home, is it because she was a temporary employee in the,
No,
in the
it's just
IRS
because
mailroom?
well, we developed probable cause based upon
Okay,
other
okay.
information. I don't remember. I wrote the warrant, but I don't remember when we did it.
Is there any department that you, when you agree to employment, you sign something that says, I agree to be investigated if I ever come under suspicion? Probably not.
No, there is nothing like that. I think,
Pre,
Yes.
Waive your rights.
yeah, you waive your rights.
Waiving my rights.
Waive your rights
As a
before you
pre-citizen.
know.
Wonder the IRS has such problem getting people to work for.
But anyway, I'll tell you a story about that woman. So that woman, we prosecuted her. They gave her 6 months probation or some bull. And another case I worked, which was, there was a good size, I was defending some mortgage fraud people back in
Probably
in
the
the
80s.
90s.
Oh, it was in the
Might have been in
90s.
the 90s. I was after I retired. Anyway, what was it? No, I was in the defense side, and I was representing this guy who was in the early. I retired in 2001, so it's after that. So it was probably 2003, 2004, and there were like 26 people, including an attorney. Maybe they remember, an attorney who was prosecuted in that case. Well, my client was a mortgage broker, and let's put it together here.
Those were the days when they were writing liar loans.
Right? Yeah, well, that's right. That's right.
You just had to state whatever income you thought.
But come to find out, this woman was employed by a lending, by a mortgage company, and she was the one that was approving the mortgage.
Mm-hmm. And so she was in cahoots with the people that were buying it.
Yes.
With the approved loans.
She was passing the, if they wanted to say it's an $80,000 loan, boom, it's $80,000 loan. Might have been only worth 60.
But how did they get around the appraisal process?
Well, it was MIA.
Okay.
MAI, whatever.
So that was when the appraisals could be literally just drive-bys.
Yeah, practically.
Yeah.
Back in those days.
Yeah.
When we had the what's it called, subprime mortgages.
Yeah.
What a mess. But that was all beneficial. See,
Yeah.
one of the big problems is it's like the COVID loans. It was like, my opinion, the approvals of people who have children. That's a scam. Because there are people that I've got 6 kids, and you want one? Okay. You want one? You got one. I'm gonna take 3, you take 2. And that's what they do, head of household. I meet the head of house. No, they don't. And it's so prolific out there. It was, I'm not sure what the situation is. And now with the cutback, if they're cutting back people and not actually physically looking at it, that's gonna be more fraud. And here we are gonna give out more information. I mean, more money now with the new tax law. So Congress passes things to get people money, but in the long run, it winds up hurting. It's like COVID. They put out the PPP loans, and what they did is they didn't control it enough. The SBA was too small to be able to handle what they had. They should have waited and gotten some. The SBA has no enforcement on. That's the FBI and it was the IRS. The FBI now does it.
But couldn't they hurt your credit rating if you didn't pay them back? Oh,
hundreds of millions of dollars. Who cares about the credit rating?
Thinking ahead.
They don't need credit rating.
That's right.
They
That's right.
operate outside of the normal.
Yes. That's right. I mean, it's just outside, and they just take advantage of whatever they can. I mean, and go try to collect now. The cow is out the barn. It's now gotten thin because it was fat.
Probably in the Philippines.
Go catch me. That's what it is.
Because they're judgment proof.
Practically,
Right?
there's no assets. They spend it
on
all.
record.
That's most of the time what happens anyway with these people that are thieves.
Yeah.
They spend it all.
I did just read another one where they have actually arrested because they were in the US and they were able to bring them, and it's people scamming authors.
Authors.
Really?
I don't doubt it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think they're claiming this particular company with 44 million that they're getting them for, and the company's based in the Philippines. And yeah, they got a couple of authors willing to tell them that tens of millions of dollars they would send these people, because they would claim, you know, oh, Netflix is going to make your movie, your book into a movie, but you have to get a screenplay and
I keep getting a phishing email saying we want to do a book for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. What's the advance fee on that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the general rule is authors don't pay up front.
If it's too good to be true, it generally is. So that's, and today, you know, the internet is so prolific with things.
Yeah.
The big thing is to look where that URL, see where it's coming from.
But these guys were actually phone calling.
Oh, the phone calls?
Getting it over the phone.
When they speak so bad that you can't understand them?
Right.
Like,
no, the Filipinos speak very good English, especially sales guys. But the investigative reporter who wrote the piece, and I'm trying to remember what he wrote it for, but anyways, he actually went over there to the Philippines and met with some of the scam guys or whatever. He sounded like he was a little concerned about his safety. And
you don't remember his name though?
What I see right now is I mean, in my age group,
Author Solutions.
In my age group on LinkedIn, LinkedIn, you wind up getting hit by a young Chinese lady who interested in seeing I'm interested in saw what you wrote and all about this, and she's in design or something like that. Well, I have one client that got hooked by a girl like that. Cost him $150,000, and she was investing for him.
Wow.
in Bitcoin. Okay.
Yeah, those
pig butchering. And he gave exactly, pig butchering. He was out of Dallas, and he got
what they're doing to authors.
Yeah, he got ripped for $150,000, and there's nothing he could do, because what she did is, oh well, you know, I invested this for you, and you've made this much money. Well, I'd like to draw some money. Oh, we can't do that right now. We got a certain period of time, we got to wait, or whatever that was. And the next thing you know, I want to take it out. It's, oh, well, you got to pay your taxes first. It's like, wait a minute, you got to pay taxes now? Why do I have to pay? That's the rule. And so we try to track everything, all the photos, everything that was there. And you could see that a lot of that was created, just taken from created pictures there in New York, because you could see the building in the background. And all that, and all of those promotion stuff. And she was posing as something that she wasn't. So.
And was that prosecutable, or?
I think it's more like you're gonna lose.
Gotta catch her first.
Yeah.
First, you gotta go find her.
Yeah.
She doesn't exist in that building, for instance. You know, you go show the doorman a picture of this girl.
Yeah.
Say, me no know her. You know. So.
Yeah, I'm finding that even the small, you're talking about pretty big cases and embezzlements, but the stuff they try to pull, even little things. I just got one the other day, and fortunately, I'm learning don't do anything on my cell phone. I got a notice from supposed Amazon. Your Prime account is no longer active because you have to pay your fee. And I'm saying,
that's scam.
Wait.
I get that every week.
Oh, you get it? Okay, that was my first on that one. Okay.
That could be a clue.
I keep reporting. I keep sending reports to Amazon Stitching or
American. The best thing is a good defense, and that is don't answer those things.
Of course not.
But you know, I'm sure Amazon gets all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually, maybe there's enough stuff that piles up that they might be able to do something. But you know, it's like we had a presentation right here. We had a presentation once. I attended the thing. APD was here, and they were talking about how they're fraud investigators, two guys sitting right here. And they were talking about how they work and do this and do that, whatever else. And how they work with, I think it was American Express. And they're proving these cases and proving these cases. And I asked a question and said, does American Express pay your salary? No, of course APD does. Who pays the citizens, right? Well, how many cases have you done for the citizens of Austin, Texas? Oh, we don't work those. We work for APD. It's exactly right. You're working for American Express, and American Express not paying your salary. If you want to go to American Express, then go ahead and you can't do that. To become an investigator with American Express, you don't have the authority to do what they're doing. You see, because they're law enforcement. So
even though we're paying their salaries as taxpayers.
Exactly. So American Express should be contributing to the tax base of the city of Austin, state of Texas. Whatever.
I think I heard a story once or twice where the American Express or the vendor actually paid the salary for the local prosecutor, and he took those fraud cases against that big company. And he's a state employee in law enforcement and so on, but he only works those cases. Don't have a terrible problem with that.
Yes, that's a conflict of interest.
Well, he's prosecuting people that are stealing from this company, whereas if he wasn't paid by the DA's office, they wouldn't have anybody to prosecute it. Those cases.
Well, that's how many other people are not getting prosecuted as a result of what he's doing. And kind of, okay, I'm only going to work these areas. And what about the others?
Well,
why should you get preference?
Then if he's just paid by the taxpayers only, he should be working all those cases. Then he will never get around to the American Express cases. They're too many, and they're too big.
Good point.
Too complicated.
Is it because they were easier to track? I mean, what's the incentive to work just the American Express ones? Because they had figured out a system to track those particular charges?
Well, American Express has resources to be able to track the money.
Okay.
But in addition to that is there may be some later immunities that come back to you. Like when you retire, you might become an investigator with it. I'm not saying that that's what's happened, but there's some potential for that.
Always look for incentive.
What do we think?
I got a movie on too.
Well, I know we're getting ready to wrap up because we're getting close on time.
Yeah.
Does anybody have one last question or comment?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you going to get Jerry Caruth to come down here and talk to this group?
Jerry Caruth?
The attorney that's on our
The prosecutor.
Zoom.
My professional nemesis.
Sure, we'd love to have him.
Sure. Yeah, Jerry, if you could send us I want to get your contact info. Do you have his contact info?
Oh, sure.
Not.
Okay.
I got it.
You got it? Jerry,
He's talked before.
I'll send you an
Has he been here
email
before?
this week. Okay.
Yeah, we have been.
Okay.
We talked for a long time.
I've done 2 or 3 presentations for y'all over the years. Ed and I did one on the Madeline Murray O'Hare case a few years ago. A retired ICE agent named George Salinas, and I did one on human trafficking a few years ago. So
I'm sorry I missed those talks, Jerry, because I'd love to see you again at some point. We have a lot of cases.
Well, I've been retired from the U.S. Attorney's Office for 16 years, so most of my stories are old. But I was down there one time with Ed, and we did a case on Madeline Murray O'Hare. Yeah. We've done several, haven't we, Ed?
Oh, yeah.
Over the years. And then George Salinas was a retired IRS agent, and he and I did a presentation several years ago on human trafficking, which is very, very prevalent. It's modern day slavery.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed those talks, but I'll catch you the next time.
I'll send you an email this week.
All good book topics.
To see if
All
you're
very
available
good
sometime in
book topics.
2026. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, I'm sure you got all this stuff recorded if you go back through your archives.
I don't know if they do or not, Jerry. They're recording.
Recording now. But,
So I do have one last
Yes,
question
ma'am.
for you. When you do forensic accounting, do you have different types of procedures to get into records that will help you see patterns in?
Yes.
That.
I mean, the procedure is to just fertilize. First thing we do is analyze the bank account, if it's a bank account involved. If it's credit cards involved, you analyze the credit cards. What we have is I built a computer program. And like, for instance, I don't know if you're it's kind of technical, but separate community and separate property. We have a program that will separate. If we got the initial information, we can separate. In addition to that, when money comes in, like an investment, we had an investment. It was $30 million that came into an investment to this company as investments from people. Well, when that money gets commingled, you can't tell what money went where. We can do that now. And it just becomes, okay, how much money was in initially? and then put the money in that goes in, and it's a first come, first out method. And that is, okay, you got a balance of $20,000 here and you added $100,000. We got to dispose of the 21st, and then you go and proceed into the remaining amounts. And so we have that ability by computer.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. I used to do that by hand.
Yeah.
And it's Excel, but it's a
Yeah.
database.
Yeah.
But we have, I have a young man that works with me, and he's very gifted, and we've been able to do those types of things and put that stuff out to help the clients get that kind of information.
Awesome.
Yeah. So everybody's got my business card.
Yes, thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
today.
you
We
for
really
coming.
enjoyed
This
your
was
visit.
I hope not to have to call you personally.
Yeah.
But I might have money laundering questions. Which will be strictly on the.
Yeah. Well, you know, state.
I don't do any money laundering.
State money laundering. Involved in a state money laundering case.
Okay.
I have this idea, but I haven't.
But you know, I've been tooling with this. You know, I've been retired now since 2001. I've been thinking about writing a book on a Madeline Murray Hair investigation.
Oh, yeah.
I've never done it.
Oh.
I haven't done it. And now you've got AI. I've got a ton of information. I just need to understand how to put that information into AI to get it to give me some information back out, and then write the book from it.
So you want to hire a coach? Is that what?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
You want to hire a coach to help you?
Possibly.
A ghostwriter is what you need,
I
not
know.
AI.
AI
So,
coach.
yeah,
They make so many mistakes, though. It's huge.
Yeah,
So bad.
We have to watch them. You have to watch them.
Wendy asks if we can give your contact information to
Oh,
people
sure.
online.
You want to type it in?
Yeah,
Here's
can I
the-
have, yeah, I actually didn't get your card, so I'll type it in for the chat. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I've been playing with the idea, just never have done it.
You're in any, but we can.
Why did you leave the team in the middle of the season? Come on, talk. What do you want from me?
Because I've got the information. I just don't have the mental ability to do it.
I mean,
Somebody
I'm
else
surprised. I've got a son that's like,
Yeah.
he's a percussion director with the school system, but just like the cell phone questions and here,
Yeah.
here, what'd you do?
Well, I can't tell you. I know
But some of them do know.
their
Some of his
fingers move
friends
so
do.
quickly that you can't figure
Well,
out what
the-
they've done.
Last week, the American Federation of Teachers just announced that they have a agreement or whatever, that they're going to be working with the AI companies to train teachers to use it, and then the teachers to train the students. So it's out there.
That could be real helpful.
That's
Thank you.
yeah, they have
Really
to. They
good
have to. I
method.
mean, you're going to save the teachers a lot of time. It's like-
I'll send you an email.
Okay, do that.
Swap a couple stories with
And
you.
you're
I'm Lee.
Lee? All right, very
Thanks.
good.
Nice.
Thank-
That was
It was very good to be able to interact.
yeah,
you know,
nice. I enjoyed.
helpful. And you?
Fran,
Fran?
very good to meet you.
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
Man.
I'm gonna
Terrific.
say thank you,
Anyways,
and
yeah.
thanks for everybody
Good,
for
good,
joining
good.
us online.
Good.
Thank you. That was great. Great meeting.
Yeah,
Joined
thanks.
recently.
See you soon.
Sure.
I would love, maybe you'll come back.